How do you manage to keep your readers and the reading habit in them alive?
I do understand that, print media, selling print media is a very uphill task. But I'll tell you what is happening with young children now. Thanks to COVID, like right now, Delhi schools, a lot of them are hybrid, online because of pollution. So the screen time in children is going
Way
really,
up.
really up. There are enough and more studies, even though they are micro studies, which say that the amount of screen the children are doing, it's causing ADHD, it's causing anxiety, it's causing developmental issues. And for a thing, I see, why do we need to wait for a large sample study if there are few of these studies which are ringing the alarm bell? And parents are finding it very hard to reverse that trend, and that is where we are finding success, because when parents and schools are finding about our paper, they're very happy to subscribe.
What has been your most surprising element so far while leading junior age?
I think the most surprising element so far has been interacting with school workshops. The level of awareness in children is very, very poor. We spoke about the war in Gaza, how the history, what is happening. We are not taking sides. So when we are reporting on issues like even Russia, Ukraine, we're just giving them pure facts, and we're letting them form
their own opinions. All of this started with your daughter's curiosity.
Actually, I think she's my biggest critique, comes with very interesting points. She looks at it from a child's perspective, a general knowledge textbook. You buy it today, it's outdated the next day.
Absolutely.
And most of these general knowledge textbooks, they haven't been updated in years.
Hi and welcome back to yet another episode of Tea with Taniya. Today we have Divyata Shergill, a corporate lawyer, expert in M&A, turned into a mom, turned into a founder and editor-in-chief of one of the rarest newspapers in the country right now, Junior Age. Hi Divyata, welcome to this episode of Tea with Taniya. Thank you so much. Divyata, you are editor-in-chief of one of the most rare newspapers in the country right now, which is called Junior Age. It is a newspaper made for kids. So tell us about how, from being a corporate lawyer, you actually came on to become, the editor-in-chief of Junior Age.
So, thank you for having me here today, Tanya. I'm quite excited to have a conversation with you. And I think you've asked a question very close to my heart. How did I start this newspaper? I won't talk much about my corporate law journey first. Let me talk to you about the paper first. So, both my husband and me, we are lawyers and we are avid readers of the newspapers. We get like all 10, 12 of them, and we read every morning. So, few years ago, around 2021, my daughter was 6, 7 years old at that time. She would see us read the paper, and being an early reader, she was very interested that my books are full of pictures and they have a lot of color, and can I not read the paper? And she would read a word here and there, and she'd be like you read bedtime stories to me, read the newspaper to me. I was quite excited at the thought that she is interested in the world, and I was like, okay, let me see what can I read to her from the newspaper. And honestly, I didn't feel that a mainstream paper is safe to hand it out to children, because
Absolutely.
there's so much news and content in those papers that you want to protect your younger children from. You do want to tell them about those kind of issues, but not in the way it is reported in the papers. So, thus began my quest. I started looking for a safe source of news for her. And unfortunately, I did not find an Indian publication which met my requirements or needs. So, it was COVID. I said, okay, fine, let me write a newspaper for her. And I wrote a paper for her. I got 100 digital prints of that paper. I gave it to her. I sent it to all her friends. And the feedback that I got was phenomenal. And besides the fact that my daughter was over the moon to read that paper. And, then I realized there's such a big vacuum in the country as far as newspaper content goes for children. And thus, rest after that, I applied for an RNI license and we started publishing. And that's how the paper was really born. So, all credits to my daughter for that.
Right. But as a corporate lawyer, where you were so into different types of things like M&A, but then you all of a sudden you were writing papers for your daughter. So when
Right.
you said you wrote that paper for your daughter and
Right.
got 100 prints of them
Right.
and circulated them among her friends, were you trying to hold yourself back when you were writing that paper, or you were pouring yourself
Actually,
in?
I don't think I was holding myself back at all. Being a corporate lawyer, my strength was definitely drafting. We draft millions of contracts, we negotiate them, and we research. So I think being and law is a kind of a degree that honestly equips you to do anything, because you have it develops a critical thinking, it develops analytical skills, and of course your drafting skills are so precise that I think, and lawyers also, like a true journalist, should not be expressing any kind of emotion or opinion in their contracts. It's all very surgical and very precise, and that's how news should be delivered,
Right.
speaking in a ideal scenario. So I think it came very naturally. Of course, figuring out what should come into the paper at that point of time, that did of course take me some time to figure it out. But I think now it's just second nature to me. When I look at a piece of news, I know how, when, and why it should go into the paper, or it should not go at all.
So what are your top three, prerequisites where you see a news and you immediately think, okay, this is something I can put in junior age?
So I think the biggest thing when we look at, I think we should look at it from the audience perspective. One is what, as educators, parents, editors, writers, we want children to know. But I think that's not how it really works when it comes to children. One has to see what interests children.
Mm-hmm.
Children are very excited about space, they are very excited about science related news, they're very excited about sports, animal news. Of course, we do give them a lot of information regarding politics, world affairs, but I think those are, I think, the biggest things that attract children. And I've seen it, when we go to book fairs and exhibitions and events, and all our papers are displayed, you can see, when a child sees a cover on cricket, football, animal, they beg their parents that, I want that issue only. And you're like, it's a really old issue, but they're like, no, we want to buy this particular issue. So we look at it completely from the perspective of what would interest our readers, because one thing is to inform them about the world, but the most important struggle today for parents, teachers, educators is building the habit of reading.
Right.
That is like literally dying now. So and that is why, after a lot of feedback and surveys, our news is also designed in bite size, so
Mm,
the children don't find it very overwhelming when they're reading something.
right. And I'll actually take you there. I remember back in college, we had a state level debate competition, and the topic for the debate was something as abstract as reading is for the old. And you somehow in 2025 are actually reversing the whole thing back. This is what Gen Z's call Uno reverse.
Right.
So you're making it all about reading is for the young.
Right.
But the print media is going out of trend.
Hmm.
Some big names like NYT and others, they're
Right.
all going out of trend. So how do you manage to keep your readers and the reading habit in them alive?
I do understand that, print media, selling print media is a very uphill task. But I'll tell you what is happening with young children now, thanks to COVID. Like right now, Delhi schools, a lot of them are hybrid, online, because of pollution. So the screen time in children is going
Way
really,
up.
really up. There are enough and more studies, even though they are micro studies, which say that the amount of screen the children are doing, it's causing ADHD, it's causing anxiety, it's causing developmental issues. And for a thing, I see, why do we need to wait for a large sample study if there are few of these studies which are ringing the alarm bells?
Mhm.
And parents are finding it very hard to reverse that
Hmm.
trend, like, and that is where we are finding success, because when parents and schools are finding about our paper, they're
Hmm.
very happy to subscribe, because the content is engaging, and they're struggling to make their children read fat books, and they feel that the 16 pager,
Hmm.
let my child at least read this, and it's a good way to take them away from screen. So
Absolutely.
NYT, and these are big publications. I think I cannot speak on their behalf, but in our limited domain, we are finding success because, the sample size of our target audience,
Is also pretty small. So,
it's pretty small, and it's very different from adults, right?
right.
Their requirements are very different.
But that also comes with a, challenge, an added challenge, because kids usually don't stay stuck with their attention at any one topic for too long. So how do you keep it engaging?
So I'll tell you there are two things. One is, we are all observing that the attention span in children is reducing. They're swiping. But if we think what is the long term impact of issues like this, today children don't know how to be bored. The creativity that
They're
comes with
always
being
looking for
bored
something.
and doing nothing. That is a very, very important aspect. And this is why we've deliberately kept the newspaper to a fortnightly paper.
Okay.
So it's a 16 pager which is printed every fortnight, because it's enough content that, we first want to, because see, for me, the biggest task is first, as a product, I have to create that habit.
Correct.
It's not, a product which people see and they're like, oh, it's a candy, I really want it. It's a habit that we are trying to inculcate and create. So we've kept it fortnightly. They pick up the paper, they read two bits and bobs and two articles here, then they come back and they read.
What has been your most surprising element so far while leading junior age?
I think the most surprising element so far has been, when I look at interacting with schools and when we go for workshops, the level of awareness in children is very, very poor. And I'll tell you, last year we conducted a quiz, a physical quiz, and with us subscriber schools, we conduct quizzes to, make children understand that, okay, if you're reading, there's a reward at the end. We'll come and conduct a quiz. Let's see where you stand, and it kind of excites them to do it. So I went to this school, and NCR school, we showed them a picture of Humayun's tomb, and we said, if you're visiting this monument, which Indian city would you be in? We got all sorts of answers except Delhi NCR. It was really shocking, and I was really taken aback. And these were children of grade 6 to 8. But what was even more shocking for me was the teachers came up to me after the quiz and they said to me, ma'am, this is really embarrassing for us, because not that they didn't know Humayun's tomb, this very cohort went for a school trip to Humayun's tomb 2 months ago. So, now
It's scary.
it is scary. And you see these children are going to be future leaders, future doctors, future lawyers, future scientists. So,
That kind of makes you want to question everything that is happening, right?
right.
Especially with the education system. While you're leading junior age as the editor in chief, you also have to make sure that it does not take them too away from their, course curriculum or school curriculum. How do you maintain that balance?
I think I wouldn't focus on the course curriculum so much, because schools are doing enough and more. Children have enough and more textbooks. And there are recent studies by AICTE which says that Indian students are very good at scoring 80-90%, but the IQ levels are
Not that great at applying.
not that great at applying and not there. So the way we have designed our paper, we want them, our children are the future generation. Like I said, they're future leaders, future problem solvers, future doctors. If they don't grow up understanding the world what it is now, how are they going to inherit it? Because any problem in society today, if we talk about pollution problem in Delhi, it has a historic reason behind it. If you're talking, I was just reading for the next issue that there's a recent Lancet study that not only obesity is rising in the world amongst children, so is hypertension. Now these problems have genesis 20 years ago. It's not that these problems cropped up suddenly today. So our idea is, that they know what is going on in the world, they absorb it, they ask critical questions. And that's why at the end of most news articles, we leave them with a thinking question.
Okay.
Think about it, analyze it.
So, talking about the critical questioning part, so let's say there is a kid who's 10-year-old who's gone through your fortnightly and they come back to you. Is there any way they can come back to you with a feedback?
Yes, so that's a very, I was hoping you asked that question because that's something I really want to share. So, what we do is we are not only like we print for children, we are also publishing platform for children. We are constantly asking our readers through multiple shout outs in the papers, social media, website, even newsletters to parents, that get your children to write for the paper. And many times, each of our when we ask these critical questions, or give them story starters, or once we told them, when Weber Suryavanshi created those great records at IPL, we did a series that, okay, why, if you were to interview him, what questions would you ask? So we get a lot of responses, and sometimes, and most times actually, we do publish them too, so that two-way interaction is there. And with our subscriber schools, we conduct workshops, and then those students, they write the entire issue for the paper.
And what has been the biggest challenge so far?
The biggest challenge so far, I would talk, let's not from this perspective, but maybe from a business perspective. Being a small independent startup, being a small publishing house, challenges remain balancing between various aspects of a business. See, one thing is like theoretically and rhetorically, or we're writing for a cause, but then the sustainability of it,
Of it, correct.
expanding business, reaching out to many schools, and of course, those kind of challenges keep coming. And we are constantly finding ways to expand, because for a publication, of course, sustainability comes with a bigger footprint.
I'm sure that happens to every business, but what's the next big project for junior age?
I would say the next big project for us is, now we are get looking into, right now we are conducting quizzes in silos.
Hmm.
Now we're looking at creating a bigger global platform where, we can conduct these quizzes. Because I remember as a kid, Bonvita quiz contest, Maggie quiz
Absolutely.
contest, participating in them. And now when I look back as an adult in those days, you know, with quizzing, the kind of skills that you develop, it's a hunger for knowledge,
Absolutely.
research, which are very skills which are getting brushed under the carpet. So there is a lot of, I would say, benefit, in these traditional forms of engagement, on, like quizzes and debates.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I, for one, I totally agree with everything you've said so far that sometimes the best way out is the traditional way, even though we are moving ahead in a very tech friendly
Yeah.
environment. But bringing you back to junior age, when you first started, writing the paper for your daughter, and now you have so many different elements to it. You have
Right.
sports, you have climate, you have environment, you have, animal news, like you said. But how do you decide, or how do you demarcate, like, this is safe for my kids, or any kid for that matter who's going through the newspaper, but it's not absolutely sanitized? How do you make that demarcation?
So, first, let me take up your opening statement on technology and writing. I'll just quickly share a study from Sweden. Around, I think, 2009, 2010, Sweden invested millions of euros in completely moving the education online. By online, I mean no textbooks, no writing, only typing. They digitalized everything. And recently, I read now they are spending a lot more money to reverse that and bring the traditional forms of education.
Absolutely.
And the reason for that is not excessive screen time. What they have realized in that generation of students who, were made to do that, that those students forget about their ability to read and write. They have
Hmm.
lost the ability to think.
Because
So,
everything is already done for them.
yes. So, when you write, you take a pause. There's a lot that processes,
You guess and second guess
Yes.
and maybe third guess, and
Yes.
then that's when you put it down. Yeah, like letter writing.
Yes.
Yes,
So they
absolutely.
are doing that. So I think while technology is good, there needs to be a optimal balance.
Balance,
Now,
absolutely.
coming to, your question on this, I think I would say that while we keep news safe, we are not completely sanitizing and, keeping it like showing them the world through rose tinted glasses. We are talking about very, very critical issues, like we spoke about the war in Gaza, but we spoke about it from a very factual point of view. We just started with how, the history, what is happening. We are not taking sides.
Hmm.
So when we are reporting on issues like even Russia, Ukraine, we're just giving them pure facts, and we're letting
Absolutely.
them form
Their own
or
opinions.
opinions. And it's also very important because our audience is so diverse,
Mm-hmm.
and that is why deliberately you'll see we are a newspaper who does not have an editorial piece. We do not do that. We just want them to know what is happening. Now, for instance, even when we talk about climate news, there is a lot of news which most of the climate news is very grim and depressing and sad. But we are talking about it. We are telling them that, India topped the, there's a recent UNEP report which says that in 2023-24 India had the highest green gas emissions.
Emission.
So, greenhouse gases emissions. So, we are telling them about these issues, but we're telling them in a very factual manner, which is not scaring them.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, we are not keeping any vital information away from them, because these issues are also very important. Children can also do a lot. They can switch off the light, they can agree to carpool, they can agree to go by buses, they can reduce their, plastic consumption. So,
Right.
we are doing all of that.
While I was going through your website, I also happened to see that you also have a fantastic internship program for 14 and above.
Right.
Tell us about that internship program.
So, the internship program, our goal here is that we want children to write for children. And that is something, we want to scale it up, but it has its own hiccups, like exams, different schedules. The idea here is that children, 14, 15-year-olds, they are closer in age to our ideal target audience, 8 to 13. So they can understand them better and write for them better. Having said that, we do get a lot of interns who come and write for us, and mostly we keep it online because it's safer. They submit articles, we guide them, we edit them, and then it gets published. And similarly, we are working with schools where we conduct workshops. Then their editorial board, they work with us, they produce an entire issue.
So, all of this started with, if it is, if I may say this, all of this started with your daughter's curiosity.
Yes.
And look where you are right now, where,
Yeah.
kids of 14 and above are coming and interning for you. Where do you see junior age next?
I think first thing I see, junior age should go to every house and every school in the country. That is the goal. And again, in my research, I have seen that there's a big vacuum in Southeast Asian countries. And a lot of these countries, like now, they are mandating that English should become the second language. When it comes to Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, and they don't have a leading children's newspaper. So we want to take it globally, but
Right.
it'll happen in due course,
But
hopefully.
when you take it globally, don't you think you're adding a lot of elements, a lot more elements when it goes global?
Not really, because if you see the fundamental content of the newspaper, it is ideal for every child in the world. Of course, we have a big section on India news, but if I am to say take the paper to Thailand or Vietnam or GCC countries, only that bit I'll have to modulate, and maybe a little bit in sports. But rest, like recently, IUCN did a big conference in the Middle East, Abu Dhabi to be precise, and they updated their red list. They talked about which animals, have moved up.
In the red data book, which are
Yes,
more vulnerable.
and some, who are fallen down, like they are near extinction. So those kind of global issues concern every child, or the robbery at the Louvre, those kind of things.
9 a.m. in the
Yeah.
morning.
So the
So,
content is done in a way, and if you see the content, even like from a prism of an Indian student, they need to know what is happening beyond their own silo.
absolutely. So, I think you've addressed the source of the problem. So, while
Right.
you were talking about why we don't have enough quizzes, one of the reasons would be, very objectively speaking, with the kind of massive coursework that schools now have for kids, irrespective of their age, I think very junior kids may have a little bit of leeway with that, but most of the kids of 8 to 13, the age bracket that you mentioned, they have a lot of schoolwork to look at. And there, when you squeeze in, quizzes and everything without a source to actually go back to, that actually just creates another vacuum. So it's not going to be sustainable. So I'm really happy and proud at the same time that you've addressed the source, and now you can think about conducting quizzes, even if it is in silos. But what big challenges do you think might come when you plan to take junior age globally?
Of course, the biggest challenge in doing business in any country is the local licenses. procuring the, like in India, if you're printing a paper, you need RNI license. So
Mhm.
most of these countries, they have their own licensing process, which is time consuming. And of course, the second big challenge is, keeping the printing cost down.
Right. But I'm sure we also have a digital section to this.
Yes.
So if your subscribers don't really want a print
Yeah.
media copy, they can always have a
No, we
digital
do
copy.
have a digital subscription, and we do have a lot of digital subscribers. But like I said, the fundamental reason why Junior Age was born, you
Was
know,
to inculcate the habit
yes,
of reading,
reading.
physical reading.
Yes. So our main push is on print, but
Mhm.
the world we are living in, we can't shy away from digital printing, digital
Media, yeah.
newspapers. So we are, that's there available. And we are also looking at in the next, couple of years to launch our own app, because we have to keep up with the times also.
Right. But wouldn't that negate the whole idea of,
No, so we in the app, we will probably not make the newspaper available. It possibly would be on other aspects, like for children to give their submissions, if they want to um, write for the newspaper or submit an article, quizzes, word searches. So let's see how it goes.
so if somebody, let's say a child somewhere between the age bracket of 8 to 13 would want to become your subscriber, so do they have to come to you through their schools or they
No,
can
no, we have
become.
a lot of B2C customers. We have a lot of direct home subscribers as well.
So we'll definitely put the link to your
Yes,
newspaper
thank
in our
you.
description link below so that all of you guys watching us can pass it on to your young readers and they can also have a chance to look at it. And if you find it interesting, which I'm sure you would, definitely subscribe. This is one of its kind. It's a very rare newspaper. So talking about your newspaper. So this is one of your editions,
Right.
right? And this is the most recent one.
Yes.
So it starts with a cricket World Cup by
Yeah.
women's cricket team. And I can totally, relate why a kid at a workshop or a fair would actually flock to this. But could you tell us more about this newspaper? Like, it's a 16 pager and it is published every fortnightly and it has so much in it. I can see, okay, I can see monkeys from China, I can see Egypt, I can see so many different countries. So I think I get your point when you said that, it's pretty much global in its take.
Right.
It's just that you're modulating the local news here and there. This is fantastic. This is
Thank you.
fantastic. So, all of this started with your daughter's curiosity.
Right.
That is what is mentioned on your website as well.
Yeah.
And you so beautifully walked us through it. Has your daughter's curiosity been quenched yet, or?
Actually, I think she's my biggest critique. So every time she sees an issue, she comes with very interesting points. I try to make it a point that before we go into print, she goes through it and gives her feedback, and she looks at it from a very child's perspective, which maybe me and my team sometimes we are not able to see that vision. Like we did I think a word search maybe a few months ago on dinosaurs. And she saw it after print and she's like, why would you do on dinosaurs? Do you know, like maybe in my class, one child is interested in dinosaurs? Most of us are not, and most children are not. And I really did think of that. I said, yeah, actually, dinosaurs are.
Because they were interesting to us when we were
Yes,
kids.
but in today's time, that so she has a lot of feedback like this on the cover. She'll give some feedback. So I think having her right here, looking at what I'm doing, and she has great marketing ideas. She, like we were running a campaign in between that something something 6 month subscription free, and she's like, why would you devalue yourself like that?
Oh, wow.
So she has a lot of great inputs, and it's very engaging to hear from her friends, get their feedback, because that definitely is the voice that we want to hear.
So, do you have a team that also does these kind of surveys, like, how your daughter brought it up
Yes.
very nicely, that maybe one out of all the students in her class is maybe interested in dinosaurs, but not all of them. The majority of them are not.
Yes.
But what is the majority interested in?
So we do send out surveys, and see, we directly don't communicate to our subscribers like that, because children, right?
Yeah.
The see, now that is also a challenge of the business, because when I am marketing my business online, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, the website, we're targeting parents. But actually, my target audience is a child,
Right,
so
absolutely.
the marketing is two prong approach. You have to reach the child through the parent. So we do send out surveys, which are in, I think, mostly filled by parents. We do get that feedback. And when we go to schools, we interact with students, we try asking them then.
Is there an is there an extension to these editions? Because let's say, for example, you have this edition out and you send it out to your subscribers,
Yeah,
schoolers or non-schoolers.
right.
Is there any kind of extension to those editions, like a workshop or maybe a competition or some kind of?
So what we do is, with schools it's easier to do. We conduct workshops, we conduct competitions. Like next week, in Lucknow, we have a very big inter-school quiz. I think 10-12 schools are coming. So we do that. But what we do in the paper, for instance, we did a few months ago story starter competition.
Okay.
We gave them two lines and told them, come back with the story. We also asked for entries, to design covers for the Shera, Diwali. We keep asking children and engaging like that, and we do get a lot of entries. Like now, we have got a lot of entries for Christmas. We've asked them to give their, a small write up, a poem, artwork.
So this is okay. So this is like a news club where you have a
Yeah,
lot of 8 to 13-year-olds,
right,
and all of them is, a reporter, a journalist, as an
right.
editor, in their own very rights. If you had to pick top 3 elements that you would definitely want to add to the existing junior age, what would they be?
I think I would definitely like to add a lot more. Now I'm thinking that we should add a lot more expert columns, like, reading about, say, health issues like children are facing. Prime Minister Modi ji has also talked about, rising obesity in children in India. He started a campaign also, where he named a few people, who had to name a few people, encourage healthy habits. So now we're looking in the next year to integrate some of these kind of elements. Like recently we did a piece with a physiotherapist on posture, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of children now, they're facing postural issues,
Right.
because constantly being like this. So simple exercises. So now we're looking at integrating that. We're also working currently with the NGO Arpan on body safety issues.
Right.
So that is something now we're looking to integrate, because we've tested our waters, we know our audience now, and it seems that they are receptive to some kind of articles and pieces like that.
Yes, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense, especially for kids these days who spend a lot of time on screen or their textbook for that matter. So, yeah, that is fantastically said.
Yeah.
Is there an element that could go out of publishing?
I don't think so. Not at the moment. And in fact, what we keep doing is, every some issues you may see will might not have a science news. If we feel there's a lot more happening in another space, we'll give that attention there. For instance, recently we've closed, we're working with the Ministry of Culture. They're giving us content to promote cultural learning, because they also did a survey recently, and they also realized that the cultural knowledge amongst children is really reducing. By cultural knowledge, I mean, what museums are there in India, what different dance forms. So we're trying to, go back to fundamentals by doing a lot of these basic things.
Any kind of negative feedback that you might have faced so far?
Of course, we do get negative feedback also. If, for instance, when we wrote the Israel Gaza piece, though we got a lot of good feedback from parents that it's written very, in a
Unbiased.
unbiased reporting, but it was on the cover, and a lot of mothers walked in. There was a big book fair at Pragati Maidan, and they said, "Oh, no, no, no. It doesn't matter. My child is 11, but even then, I don't want my child to know about this war. Why should my child read about these kind of issues?" So we do get also some feedback from parents. They are concerned about us writing so much about the environment,
Mm-hmm.
because when it's environment news, it's not always very
Just environment. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a lot of things in the background as well.
Yes, so but we try to keep it very factual and to the point. See, the idea is that if you see the economics of the paper.
Mhm.
The paper barely costs the parent like less than 2 rupees a day, if I look at their annual subscription and what they're getting. But people have their own opinions,
Absolutely.
and so it's about these kind of issues, but I feel very strongly about it. And a majority of feedback on these issues is very, let's not say positive, but let's say that it is very critical for children to know about this. So we are continuing to soldier on, and our mission is very simple, that like I tell parents that they'll call and many times negotiate the subscription price. Well, I do understand that it, for some it could be on the higher side, but if you see, it boils down to 2 rupees a day for the whole year. So what you're getting out of that, like even if you buy your child a general knowledge textbook, you buy it today, it's outdated the next day. And most
Absolutely.
of these general knowledge textbooks, they haven't been updated in years.
Right. And I can, I understand where these parents with critical suggestions are coming from, because we have a saying in science, Divyata. We say in science, so suppose if I'm in the field and if I'm looking for tigers and I don't find any, so I would put a zero in my sightings, but that does not mean the tigers are not there.
Right.
Not present is not equal to absent.
Mm.
So just because parents want to keep their children away from the news does not necessarily mean that the event is not happening at some other corner of the world. And that's, I think, something that parents have to understand intrinsically. And I think it is going to take us a couple of years
But
more.
I understand, I respect their opinion, because as a mother, maybe I'm very passionate about certain things, what my daughter should do, should know.
Absolutely.
And each parent is entitled.
Different.
My
Yes.
priorities could be different. So that opinion that we also get from them is also valuable.
Absolutely.
That voice of dissent is, as important in a democracy as the voice of assent. So,
That's what we say in science, zero is as important as one.
right.
So, yeah, it all sums up really well. But I'm so glad to have met you. And
Likewise.
and this is, I wish we had such kind of things back then. But I'm sure we had quizzes, we had
Right.
Bonvita quiz competitions to participate in. We had our GK books. And the curriculum was not as harsh as it is now, but times have changed, and so we must. Thank you so much for your time, Divyata. I cannot begin to tell you. But yeah, before we wrap up this episode, I definitely want to ask you this. So, there's another saying, you open one door and that leads you to many doors. So, has junior age opened more doors for you?
It definitely has. I think, this whole journey of junior age has also been a journey of self discovery. Realizing that there's so much out there, which sometimes as a professional you kind of forget. And, thanks to junior age, I've also been appointed as the chief editor of the Paralympic Committee's newsletter. So that is also a very exciting opportunity, and I'm looking forward to contributing there also effectively.
Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you, and I'm sure our audience is going to take away as much as I am taking away from you. And you guys who are watching us right now, you've heard us talk about junior age. Definitely go check out their multiple editions. They're absolutely wonderful to look at. Even if you're a parent, a non parent, if you know somebody, a child between the age of 8 and 13, definitely recommend them. And you will find the link to their website in the description box below. And while you're at it, do give us a like, subscribe, and share. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys next time.